There we go.
Okay.
And everybody on the call will be asked if it's okay to record.
Okay, yes. In my prior comments, I noted in my initial comments that yes, this meeting is being recorded. And does everybody see that now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I
Yes.
apologize for that. Again, I thought it was already recording. And so I apologize for that. Were there any other public comments? And I apologize for interrupting public comment there too.
Yeah, David and Sharon had a quick question, I believe. I don't know if there's someone from MTS here that can quickly respond. If not, we can just get back to them.
Sure, absolutely.
I forget the question.
I will check and verify, but as far as I know, there are messages playing on both the buses and the trolleys regarding it, but I will double check that.
Yeah, and I can double check on the issue of, you asked about the fair enforcement officers, the teams of 3, and seeing if they could just split up instead, and I can always inquire about that as well.
I know there's signs, but
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Sharon, David, and Jay. Were there any other public comments?
Charlene, you got the one I mentioned about the electric buses and my concern with people that are blind knowing they're there?
Megan, you might be on mute.
No, I'm not. I just, sorry, I didn't know if that question was towards me or I think we got that one, Charlene. Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other comments, but thank you, everyone. I think we can go to item 4 for the staff report.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Just a few quick notes. First of all, we have 2 new SDAC attendees to introduce. First, we have Elena McCollum, who's taking over the alternate position at Survivors of Torture from Alicia De Leon Torres. I don't know if Elena is on the call, but I just wanted to let you guys know. And second, I would also like to introduce Ashley Wiley, who is our new transit planning intern, who is taking over for Zach, who, as you all know, moved into the contracts department a few months ago. Ashley is a senior in her final year at SDSU, so please make an extra effort to announce your name, as she will be assisting with the minutes, and she's also running the PowerPoint. So thank you, Ashley. Speaking of Zach, he asked me to forward the following information to the SDAC. First of all, the 2020 Program Management Plan was adopted by the Transportation Committee on October 16th. The PMP is a comprehensive guide for how staff administers the Specialized Transportation Grant Program. It is available on the STGP website, www.sandag.org/STGP. Second, the Cycle 11 Call for Projects application window closed on October 30th. Eligible projects will be evaluated and scored with preliminary funding recommendations anticipated to be brought to the Transportation Committee in February 2020. Lastly, if the STAC members would like to, if there are STAC members who would like to serve as evaluators, please let Zach know by Wednesday. He mentioned that he already has 13 confirmed evaluators, 3 more than is required, but the more the merrier. So evaluators just can't be applicants or those that have a conflict of interest. So please let Zach know if you're interested. Next, the Regional Plan Vision Joint Working Group meeting was held almost 2 weeks ago on October 29th. Thank you to everyone who attended. I received a few email comments and did forward them to Seth Litchney, the senior planner who organized the workshop. And lastly, the Eno Center for Transportation just released a report called Toward Universal Access, a case study in the Los Angeles and Puget Sound regions. The paper discusses mobility on demand pilots in those two areas, and there will also be a webinar on November 19th. Let me know if you're interested and I can forward you the information. And that's all I have. Thank you. Brian, did you have anything?
Nope, all good, thanks.
Thank you, Lisa. Do any members have any questions or comments on the staff report? I don't see any hands. What about any attendees? Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa. I think we can go ahead and go to item number 5, the development of regional smart intersection and next OS concept of operations reports.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm gonna introduce the item. Just want to make sure you guys could hear me.
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you, Alex.
Thank you.
Shall I share my screen, Alex, or is I thought
Yeah, you could
someone
just
was
put it on
doing
the,
that.
you could go ahead and drive and then just put it on the first slide.
Okay, thank you.
So before I turn it over to our consultant team, we'll like to walk through a presentation. I would like to make sure, I would like to provide some opening remarks and context on the effort that you'll be hearing about today, and really essentially why we are bringing this to you today. But first, I'd like to thank STAC and the STAC chair and Lisa for giving us the opportunity to come to you to introduce this item. My name is Alex Estrella, and I'm with SANDAG, and I'm the Technology Planning Program Manager. And with me today is Alyssa Funnell, who we just heard from our consultant team, Kimberly Horn. So in terms of just background and context, obviously a lot of you guys are aware that SANDAG has initiated the development of the 2021 regional plan. And this is based on these 5 big moves concepts. And it sounds like many of you participated during the regional vision working group last week. As you know, those 5 big moves concept in our regional plan is based and it's driven by a vision that will provide a better experience for everyone, regardless of what modes they choose. A vision that is intended to provide and improve access for all users and travelers, really to improve efficiency and improve how we can better meet the needs of our transportation future. And that's really how we're transforming this new vision. How do we look at our whole systems holistically? What you'll be hearing about today is about moving forward with some technological components in that vision within the Next OS, which is the digital platform, or really kind of the back-end systems of making our 5 big moves work together: our transit leap, our complete corridors, our flexible fleets, and our mobility hub components. So what I mean about when I say that is that besides the capital infrastructure elements or the larger construction type of elements, there's this digital platform that is running in the background that makes all these systems work together. And that's what we're talking about today. And the idea, maybe the example is when you work or use your computers, there's all these algorithms that are working in the background. So when you open a spreadsheet or a Word document, all you see is the front-facing components. But when you develop those applications, there's these underlying systems that are running in the background to actually make use of those applications more efficient, and actually you're able to use those applications for your benefit. And that's essentially what the Next OS. There's these components that we're thinking about, but we need to understand as we develop all these systems, why is it that we're developing? Who are these systems going to be used by? So in the transportation development process, if you're familiar with just the traditional capital improvement process, you have initially you have your preliminary studies, you have your design, and then you go through your planning documents, your more analytical documents that kind of lead or in the phased approach where you get your environmental work done, then you have your design plans, and then you go through full construction, and then you do the major capital rollout. But in the technology side, what we have is this concept called concept operations report. And that concept of operation report really kind of tries to identify why we're doing a system or technology and who the users of those technology are going to be used. So this requires an extensive outreach effort to the various users or stakeholders that would use those systems. So for example, what you're seeing here is just a kind of a more at the local level, what we call our smart intersection system. So what you're seeing here is, how this system will be used by the motorist, what elements. So you have, for example, these flexible fleets or these vehicles communicating between the transit, but also providing information at the intersection level to really provide and maximize the efficiency of those intersections, but also provide information to the pedestrians or the folks using those crosswalks. So there's a lot of data that's being passed through sort of in the background of the system. So with that, the idea here is that you're going to be hearing from Melissa, who's going to walk us through and kind of introduce the concept of smart intersection system, but also within that is a curb management concept that we're also going to be undertaking as part of the next OS. So you're going to be hearing kind of a high level what these systems are about. They've going to be presenting some initial needs on what is it why we're coming to all of you today, to make sure that we're actually getting input from all of you, from the STAC community, and that in essence will be background for us to help develop and design the systems as part of the sort of like I said, the technology development process. With that, I'll just turn it over to Alyssa.
Thank you, Alex. As Alex mentioned today, we are here today to talk about your needs for the transportation system and for accessibility for transportation. And with that, I want this to be conversational. So if you have anything, I think you can use the chat function to provide input. I'll go through a little bit of what some of the concepts that we're considering are. But as we consider the end-to-end user experience using transportation, we are going to focus that conversation today at both the intersection and the curb level. And we want to make the intersection work for all users. And that means, for example, if you are crossing the street, you want to make sure that you have enough time to cross the street. Signal timing is not something that is just based on maximums and minimums and formulas. It should be based on who is using the intersection at that specific period of time and making that intersection work for them. So that could include, if you're crossing the street, the signal should understand that someone's in the crosswalk, and instead of turning from yellow where you have that stressful experience, are you going to make it in time? That will give you more time that you can cross the intersection on the green light and make sure that you get all the way across safely in order to get to your destination. Now, before you even cross the street, we have to figure out how you get to the intersection in the first place. And that includes things like making sure there are accessible pedestrian signals. That includes auditory information if you're visually impaired, or tactile information that's easy to understand that can tell you where to cross and how to cross safely. And there are other ways in the back end that we can do that. We have, this slide talks about passive pedestrian detection, but that is basically detection that you're not even aware is there, that it can sense that you are in the crosswalk area, on the ramp area, and know that someone is about to cross. The signal can tell from your direction about which way you're going to go, and make sure that the signal can give you priority to get across. It's very simple technology. It's similar to when you go to the grocery store and the door knows you're there and it opens. And we want to make sure that the signal can get you across, that there is an auditory signal that it's safe for you to cross, that you can get across safely, and again, get to your final destination. Also on the intersection level, we want to make sure that safety is a priority. One of the concepts that we're looking at is detecting for cars or buses to understand if there's someone in their blind spot. for example, if the vehicle is making a turn and there's someone in the crosswalk, that an alert is given to make sure that that turn doesn't get completed. I know that I have a newer car right now, and it's new to me to have this technology. I was going into the garage the other day, and it starts beeping when I'm too close to the sides, and we have similar technology that's actually available right now that we can utilize for vehicles to understand if someone is in their blind spot. In the same manner, there are technologies that we can use at the intersection for a signal to be able to detect if a conflict is approaching. If two vehicles are making a movement that would have them get into a crash, we can have the signal turn one direction red so that signal knows that a car is coming and it can prevent that incident. Those are some of the safety applications that we're looking at right now. And certainly those would work for pedestrians and bicyclists as well. And we want to consider the users of the intersection. We're not just here looking at passenger vehicles and making sure that those are safe, but we're looking at, for example, if there are 50 people on a bus, it makes sense that those 50 people should be able to get through the intersection in a reasonable amount of time, because you want to be able to give them an extra green signal so they can get through the intersection instead of having them those 50 people wait on the bus at a red light. You want to make sure they get more green priority. The same as if you're using a bicycle, you want to make sure bicycles it's easier for them to have a green signal crossing the intersection, because it's harder to wait. I think that there's before I move on to the curb management point, I'm just going to stop here as we talk about intersections and wonder if any of this has rung true to any of you, and if you've had experiences that would be helpful in us understanding what other needs we should be documenting right now. I think I saw a chat. Maybe Lisa or someone will help me figure out how to see it. Does anyone have any input?
Alyssa, are you unable to see the chat?
Well, I'm sharing my screen, so I have not been able to figure out how I can see a chat and share my screen at the same time. Is there a chat available that we need to address?
Yeah, Charlene, are you able to?
Hi, this is Alex. Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I'm unmuted. My concern is, and what I said in my chat that I sent out, is that you're saying that to safely cross, and I don't think that exists because of turning traffic. What the light do simply is tell you that I have the light in my favor, then it's up to me as an individual to decide if it's safe to step off of a curb and cross. There's no such thing, because of moving cars and drivers not paying attention, of safe crossing.
I understand. Yes, you're right. We can't guarantee the safety when you're in the crosswalk, but we can provide measures to help make that experience safer. Are there specific concerns that you have? I think you mentioned turning movements, so maybe separating the crosswalk from people turning to prevent turns. Is that one of the things that you're thinking of?
A lot of it's the right turn on red that is
right turn.
Drivers don't necessarily pay attention to pedestrians and yield to them. And with quieter cars, that's becoming more and more essential.
Yes, I heard you say that earlier, that is true with more electric vehicles. It's hard. I know I've had that experience in a parking lot where you can tell that people don't know that they're walking in front of a vehicle. And I think that there are some ways we can utilize technology to make that safer, whether it's within the vehicle. There are specific, we call it vehicle to infrastructure communication, that can communicate directly to the vehicle that someone is in the crosswalk, but there's also some things we could do with the signals and maybe the timing to prevent some of those conflicts. So that's helpful. Thank you.
Michigan has a no turn on red, and it's, at least they used to, and that's very helpful, especially for pedestrians.
Thank you. That's good feedback. Anyone else? Okay, if anything comes up, I'll move forward. In addition to the crosswalks, we're also looking at curb management. Now, I know the curb is almost never anyone's destination when you're talking about how to get from place to place, but the curb is still an important part of our transportation system. One of the things that we're looking at is how to allocate the curb space based on the needs that are available. For example, parking is one thing that is important, making sure that there are accessible parking spaces and communicating where those accessible parking spaces are on the curb, whether those are assigned dynamically or there's something that is labeled. We want to make sure that we have accessible parking. We also are looking at making sure that parking is always available, whether that's based on dynamically pricing it, so that we can make sure that there are spots available on each curb face for people to park. And that way it minimizes people's driving around and circling looking for parking. We also want to make sure when you're at your destination that if you are in need of an accessible ramp or an accessible crosswalk with maybe a visual or an audible crosswalk signal, that those are located. If a driver is dropping you off and you need that, we want to make sure that the driver has that information on where those curb ramps are or where those accessible signal crosswalks are, so that you can use those to get to your final destination. And there are ways, as Alex explained, this back-end system that we can kind of geolocate those specific features so that you're dropped off exactly where you need to be in front of an accessible crosswalk or in front of a ramp. Because again, your destination is not that curb. You need to be able to get from that curb to where you want to go. We're also looking at ways that we can utilize the curb for other purposes. So there's specific drop-off and pickup areas. We're looking at locating transit stops, not just for buses, but also for what we call micro-mobility. Those are the kind of on-demand first mile, last mile to get you from the bus stop to your destination, or from the mobility hub to your final destination, and making sure that those have specific places where you can get dropped off so that you're not getting dropped off in traffic or double parked somewhere where it might not be necessarily safe for you. So those are some of the things that we're talking about in terms of curb management. Another thing is making sure there are multiple options for payment, whether it's for payment of parking or payment for other items, that we want to make sure that there are multiple ways that you can pay, not just an app-based parking payment, but also that there are pay stations that are accessible for people with different languages or for people that are in wheelchairs, making sure that everyone has access to those. I saw some things pop up. In terms of curb management, is there anything else that we should consider?
This is Helen. May I make a comment?
Yes, please.
I would like to go back to the very first picture of the smart intersection as it relates to curb management. The very, very first one that showed the whole smart intersection.
Oh, the very
It
first
looks
one.
like.
This is the one you're referring to?
Yes, perfect, that one. It looks like there's no curb information for the blind pedestrian, let alone any, when you're crossing after you've left the truncated domes, if that's what that is, and then you get to the point where you actually cross the street. It looks like it's all blended, and I'm not sure how a blind person would know where to stop waiting for the light to change. The other is the audible signals. While they may be set back at the sidewalk side, they're not located close to where the crosswalk actually goes across the street. Is that something I'm missing?
This is just a visual rendering that was not specifically generated for curb management, but so this is what we're talking about here, is trying to understand your needs so we could get it into the actual planning level document. This is not something that's a design detail yet, but it's not shown in this picture. So you're right about that.
Okay, so it's just as long as you're the awareness.
But those are needs that.
Sure, to have whatever. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just want to repeat back so I can make sure I understand your needs. So making sure for visually impaired that there's information from the curb face, so you're not just wandering into the street or.
Correct. It would be like a
Okay.
blended curb doesn't give you the information when you've stepped in front of the cars that are, even if they have a red light. You don't know when you've actually stepped into the street. So there would have to be some tactile, but not nothing that interferes with somebody in a wheelchair, but a tactile information at the point of crossing, as well as an audible signal telling you that's where the light has changed.
Great, that's good feedback. And then your other one was concerning the location of the
The
pedestrian
audible
signal.
signal push button. Yes, that should also be close to where the corner, wherever the person is about to step off, rather than back where the sidewalk is, if there's still another 10 feet or so before they actually cross.
Right, okay, thank you, that's very
And I
helpful
did have
feedback.
one question, just
Yes.
looking, first of all, I'm very impressed with all the accessibility features that you're building in, but I had a question just about the parking for accessible parking if there are vans. It looks like if some vans are going to have, if people are going to disembark by going down the back of the van, in one of the pictures, it looked like there was not enough space before they'd actually find the bus stop.
I think that
In other words, people getting out of their vans may have to use the back part. Yeah, the next one.
I understand what you're saying.
So that they have enough space either on the side or in the back to be able to come out of the van.
And then if you are getting out of the back, we need to make sure that there is a ramp of some sort
Yes, yes.
that
of
can
course.
be located at the back of that
Correct.
parking space. Okay.
Right. Thank you.
Anything else?
I see Sharon Beckus has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, hi, this is Sharon Beckus. I have a question on the when we push the button on the light to change the light to cross,
Yes.
is that somehow stored? Is that information stored so it can tell how many people are using that intersection as pedestrians? And if it does get stored, can that be used in the decision to say yes or no to a right turn on red?
You're asking if we can collect pedestrian counts, so in the areas where there are more pedestrians to prevent right turn on reds?
Correct.
Yeah, we can absolutely do that.
I also commented, a lot of the cars here have tinted windows, so I can't even get the driver's attention.
Yes, that is, yes. I think, it also helps. There's a lot of distracted driving going on these days. So even if they didn't have tinted windows, it would be hard sometimes to get their attention. So we need to look at other ways that we can do that. And I think, as has been mentioned here, preventing right turn on reds during where there are high pedestrian counts. And then also looking at some of the vehicle to infrastructure safety improvements will help with that need. Certainly it can't make it go away, but I think these are all very good points.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I see another comment from Time Curtis.
Did you want me to unmute Time to have her ask
Yeah,
it in
sorry,
person?
I'm sorry, I thought I had unmuted her.
Oh, it looks
Hi,
like
can you hear me?
There we go.
Hi, Time.
Hi, thank you. Sorry for using the chat function. I was just curious how SANDAG is planning to work with the various cities. As you know, City of San Diego has its own curb management plan and various plans and whatnot for the curb space and how we accommodate people with disabilities. So I was just wondering how this plan kind of folds into what cities are currently doing.
I'll go ahead and answer that. Perfect question. This is Alex Estrella again. So we just started working on this concept of operations, but if we could coordinate on that, because part of our initial efforts is just inventorying just the amount of, I would say, traditional data, like you said, locations, but also policies. So I would like to maybe give you my contact information because we're at the beginning stages right now.
Great, sounds good. Yeah, we'll definitely connect.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I see Marissa Lucero also would like to comment.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. No, I just wanted to make a comment that was very similar to Helen's, was just, the increase in bike lanes has
Mhm.
definitely created a challenge at a lot of these intersections that are being updated. And, we're fully aware that I'm really happy that that's something that people are starting to do more, is ride their bikes, but it does tend to just create a really complex and very different intersection for our travelers who are visually impaired.
Mhm.
So, just it's really nice to have people communicate and be transparent with what the plans are so that we can try and, help it be inclusive to all parties. Because otherwise we end up going to intersections where there's been, everything has already been constructed and we're looking at why was this done in this way? Because it just doesn't make sense to some people. So yeah, it's just nice to hear ahead of time rather than once it's been in place and then we're having issues with it. So
Thank you for that feedback. So the challenge with the bike lanes, is that mostly in the crosswalk, the conflict between bicyclists and pedestrians?
I think it's just being able to know that there is a bike lane to cross, right? Because if a lot of
Gotcha.
times they're painted green, there's no difference in texture. So the
Yes.
pedestrian doesn't really know that there's actually a a bike lane that needs to be crossed before they actually begin crossing the street.
Mhm.
So it usually takes some time to actually discuss that with the client and let them know what the layout is of that intersection.
That's helpful to know. Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks like Charlene has a raised hand still.
Yes. On the original slide that you had, the brick or inlaid brick and textured in the street is a great asset for people who are blind to know exactly where my boundaries are, so I don't drift over into the bike lane. It is
Mhm.
parallel to me. Also, and so that's really a good intersection, except for the fact that the markings to where the street begins is not there. I think it's maybe way back farther, and there
Mhm.
to indicate that my next step would be in the street. So those are really needed. And just to remember that people who are blind, we don't ever get that eye contact thing. We have to totally go off of
Right.
just sounds.
Right. Mhm. That's important to be considerate of. And I think the point has been made about having those different textures and tactile representations of the different changes that you're going through, from the crosswalk through the bike lane to the travel lanes. I appreciate that, and we can incorporate those into our plan.
Thank you.
So I'm just going to touch on a couple other needs, and you can tell me, how much of a priority these are, or if you agree or disagree with them. We came up with these listening to the past meetings, but also just from experience in the industry. We want to make sure that traveler information and some of the stuff we're talking about, as Alex mentioned, this back-end system and the brains behind it, is accessible for those that don't necessarily have internet access or a smartphone. And we're looking at ways to make that available in a variety of ways to transmit information. Also, certainly for parking payment, those without a bank account or a credit card, that's something that we're looking at. And that also applies to some of the micro-mobility features that we were talking about. How can people pay for services if they don't actually have the bank account or credit card, which is required in so many of these app-based traveler systems. Certainly multiple languages is something that we're looking at. We're also looking at signage. I think many of us have had that experience when we go look at a curb and there's street cleaning and there's specific hours of operation and you pay these hours but not these hours except for this day. And some of that information can get very confusing. So we're looking at fonts, we're looking at at ways to simplify that information to best communicate it and also have it available in multiple language if necessary. We're looking at multimodal options is a huge part of not just the smart intersection and the curb management, but all of the overall 5 big moves that we're looking at. And in terms of bus driver trainings, because the bus driver is often your first, well, before you get on the bus, the bus driver is one of the first things that you deal with, and making sure that the bus driver can understand what they can do to make things more accessible and helpful to people, whether it's getting on the bus or even putting the bicycle on the bus, and looking at mobility devices, or have bus kneeling to help with people getting on the bus. So we're looking at that level of detail as well. And in order to, something, if it doesn't get measured, I think it doesn't always get tracked or improved upon very well. So as we're understanding what performance metrics we need to use to make sure our smart intersection and curb management plans are working once they're designed and implemented, we're identifying at the beginning during this planning stage what performance metrics in terms of equity and accessibility we can use to measure the performance once they're implemented to improve as things go forward. Does anyone have any input into any of those things I've just mentioned, or does this spur a conversation on other needs that maybe we haven't captured but should look into?
This is Helen. Can I add another comment here?
Please.
I'm impressed and appreciate all the different issues that you've raised. And I would just want to support what Time had mentioned, the need that once SANDAG comes up with this, to work closely with the city of San Diego, and in this case with driver training, to work with San Diego Transit, so that everybody's on the same page as far as implementing the recommendations.
Thank you. Yes, we are working on a regional plan, but that regional plan will be implemented locally. So that partnership from the local agencies and transit agencies is vital to making it a success.
Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
I don't have any other parts of the presentation. I'm just going to tell you a little bit about our next steps. This is your opportunity to provide feedback on needs, and we'll be working with your group over time if you have other needs that come available that you think of, to get them to us. We are working on this planning document, as Alex mentioned. We should wrap up the initial draft in January of next year, incorporating any of the needs that you have and coming up with specific strategies to meet those needs. After our contract ends, the next steps will be for the design and implementation of these systems.
And I just want to make sure one just closing statement on my behalf. Thank you very much for your input, and we'll be circling back with Lisa to share kind of the initial needs that we received at some point. But the idea here is that, just kind of stepping back. So when a concept of operations report is done that lays out the needs of the different and various stakeholders. So what you heard today is kind of the needs from the STAC community, but we also capture needs from the operators and so forth. But the idea here is that once we lay out those needs, then this concept of operation report, then it gets transitioned to kind of the developing of the system. And then that then gets into when we actually have capital projects being rolled out, they take this input. So as they start thinking about, hey, if we want to design and develop this intersection, there's this technology component that we need to consider. But the technology, by the way of this concept of operations, to develop a system will be kind of supporting that capital infrastructure. The idea here is that, as a statement that was previously made, that we're taking technology seriously, because sometimes we think about technology and think about it from the auto user and talk about infrastructure and so forth, but rarely from a technology perspective. We need to understand how that system is going to be used. And this is why we're going through that effort. We're reaching out to a number of stakeholders along the process. And thank you very much for allowing us to speak today.
This is Brian, real quick. Thanks, Alex. We have Ethel Miranda as an attendee, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Ethel, but I want to make sure you're able to comment or raise your hand if needed. There you go. Looks like you're jumping in. I don't know if you had anything to bring up, Ethel, or if not, no big.
No, I'm very impressed. I'm listening to it and I'm paying close attention. It sounds like everything so far, conversations, sounds like they're doing, I know a lot of emphasis is on technology. Right now I'm using my blind screen reader for JAWS for the totally blind. And you know, so far so good. As long as whenever we get into technology and apps, want to make sure that they are accessible to the screen readers. So whether it be voiceover on your phone, if you're asking us to use apps, and certainly on our PCs. So yeah, keeping that in mind. Even when we're giving instructions like for how to, attend. Yeah. For Zoom, we use all keyboard. So Alt-A to mute and unmute, Alt-Y to raise your hand, and things like that. So include that, will get more of the blind community input. But yeah, so far so good. I'm keeping up. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethel, and I'm glad you're able to, sounds like you know all the commands and all that for Zoom, so it's great.
Well, yeah, and I had to do a crash course on all the Microsoft Teams as well to keep up. Yeah, and with all our blind centers closed, but they are going virtual, so we've had to really race to keep up. But I'm glad all the intersection stuff, the buses, everything, yeah, we're all being in there. Yeah, accessibility. It's a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Thanks,
I'll
Ethel.
unmute now.
Thanks. And I see Clyde's hand raised.
Hey, hi. Just a general comment. I am so excited to see the progressive, forward-thinking stuff coming up. It just all seems, I'm sure there'll be blips. We'll find them. I have a concern that I don't know if it's technological, but I have not ridden any public transportation since last March. And the reason is that I'm not confident about the efforts that are being made. I know last I heard, buses and things were being cleaned at night or early morning, and then people ride them all day. I need to know that I'm not going to sit down somewhere that somebody else who's got COVID has just been. It's frightening for me. I'm a senior and I'm legally blind, and I need mostly to be able to go for medical appointments, and I'm just really putting a lot of things off because I'm very uncertain. So if anybody knows more about that or can add, think of some way to put more assurance into the safety, the sanitation, I suppose is the word for the ridership, I'm all ears. Thanks.
So I think we could, wrap up this item about smart intersections and curb management, and leave it to the transit operators to comment on that during their updates and all that.
This is Arun. I'd like to make a quick comment.
Yeah.
In response to the recent comment, I'm sorry I can't cite the source, but I have looked at surveys published in transit journals that have said that despite the very crowded conditions in some public transit systems, like the ones in Japan and New York, which have been studied since the outbreak of COVID, there has not been any, to my knowledge, any outbreak of COVID that's been attributed to transit use across the world. So that's a very significant finding in that study. I can't speak.
Arun, sorry to interrupt. Again, that's not pertaining to this item, so I think we should try to stay on track for this item. and we can move along to that in the transit operator item.
Okay, yeah, I'm done with my comment anyway. Thank
Okay.
you.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Alex and Alyssa, and thank you everyone for your comments and questions. We can go ahead then and move on to item number 6, which is the 2021 STAC meeting calendar and update to charter.
Okay, thank you. This is Lisa. And Ashley, are you able? There we go.
And shoot, sorry guys, I'm sorry. I'm not 100% sure. Alex and Alyssa, were you guys all done with everything?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So as you all know, this is the last meeting of 2020, which means that we need to approve the STAC calendar for 2021. And so as we all know, STAC meetings are traditionally held on the third Monday of every other month, with the exception of the January meeting, which has traditionally been held on the third Wednesday of the month due to the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday. Additionally, in the past year and a half, SANDAG has shifted to a 980 flex schedule with offices closed to the public every other Monday. And so when I checked the calendar for next year, an additional 3 meetings would have to be rescheduled due to conflicts from the flex schedule. So therefore, I would like to get the council's thoughts on moving the STAC meetings to the third Tuesday of every other month. The start and end time would remain the same, 10 a.m. to noon. So I just wanted to see, does anybody have any comments about this change? Because in order to make the change, we would need to revise the STAC charter, which brings to mind brings up my second comment about the charter, which was that when I reviewed the charter, I also noticed that in the individual member sections, we include the line, individual members in each category shall alternate roles between being a primary representative and an alternate on an annual basis. Ashley, can you actually move to the next slide? Oh, so yes, these are the proposed meeting dates for 2021. And then next slide. And so then here are the 2 proposed changes I'm suggesting to the charter, moving from the third Monday to the third Tuesday, and then the line about individual members in each category shall alternate roles between being a primary representative and an alternate on an annual basis. As far as I know, we haven't adhered to this in a while, so I would like to recommend that we remove this line, especially considering that voting members and alternates don't always change out on the same schedule. So to ensure that everyone, I guess, gets the membership that they signed up for. Individual memberships have a 3-year term with about 1/3 of all appointments consisting of a mix of primary and alternate members rotating in and out on an annual basis. And so during the last election cycle, we had 1 primary and 2 alternate membership terms available. And when I announced the positions, I let individual membership applicants know that they could apply for more than 1 position. So would the STAC members be okay with this change as well? The intent would be that individual members would be able to serve the 3-year term that they are appointed to. So I know I just threw a lot out there. Do we have any comments? I see a hand raised.
Looks like Charlene has a comment.
Hi, Charlene.
Yes, I agree with the changes. And the one where we alternate back and forth and being an alternate and a voting member has been extremely confusing. I never know if I'm voting or not voting. And so I'm all for removing that, and moving it to Tuesdays is not a problem.
Okay, thank you, Charlene. Does anybody else have any comments about the calendar change for next year? Ashley, can you maybe go back one more so everybody can see there we go, the meeting dates for 2021? Any comments? about the proposed meeting dates. We'd also keep the unmet needs public hearing consistent with having that every May. Okay, seeing and hearing no other comments. Megan, would you be able to call for a roll call vote?
Sure. Does anybody need to make a motion to approve, or do we just?
Charlene, I'll make the motion to make the changes.
Okay, Charlene, in a second, anyone?
Jay, second.
A second from Jay. Okay, great. We can go ahead and do a roll call.
Okay, Helen Elias?
Wait, did we just double check there were no public comments or?
Yeah, the only hand raised I saw was Charlene's.
And from public.
Correct.
Perfect.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and call for a roll call vote. Helen Elias?
I approve.
Okay, thank you. Clyde Kohler?
Thank you, Ruby. I'm on a
I
call.
approve. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm in a hurry. Yeah, I'm on a call and I got to talk in a few minutes.
You mute if. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Lori Seagram.
Approve.
Okay, thank you. Charlene, you made the first motion. Catherine Manis. Do you approve, Catherine? I'll skip and come back. Winona Garcia.
Hi, this is Winona. I approve.
Okay, thank you.
This is Catherine. I approve.
Okay, thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, Marissa.
Hi, this is Elsa Caballero. Marissa, she just approved on the chat. She was bumped off, so she got taken off of the panelist board.
Oh, okay, yes, I see her comment now too. Okay, thank you, Marissa. Claudia Gavin.
Yes, Claudia, I approve.
Thank you, Claudia. Megan Schmidt.
Approve.
Arun Prem.
Yes, approve.
Thank you, Arun. Vasi Lorenska.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Vasi. Jay, you seconded. And Charles Main.
I approve.
Thank you, Charles. Okay, it looks like that motion passed unanimously.
Great, thank you. Item number 7 is a transit operator update. Do we want to start with MTS?
I can kick it off. Service continues to run about 75% below normal. We have come up, we were down to 91% at one point. Enhanced COVID procedures continue. We finished installing driver barriers on all of the access buses and the minibuses. So actually the entire fleet has driver barriers now for germ protection for the drivers and the riders on the vehicles. We continue with our enhanced cleaning, disinfecting of the buses. We also have stepped up cleaning with cleaning during the day at major transit centers, and even some of the most frequently rode routes. We have individuals who will do wipe downs middays on those vehicles. The ridership is down about 55% on the fixed route, so not as much, and I think it's down a little bit less on trolley than it is on bus right now. That's pretty much the current status with everything. Slowly starting to see ridership come back. Again, we encourage everyone to practice social distancing, wear their face masks. Drivers do inform individuals to wear their face masks, but drivers do not enforce. We do not want to put drivers in the position of getting into altercations, If a driver does have an individual who is not compliant, they will communicate through radio and hopefully be able to have a road supervisor or security meet that individual further down the route and try and address the issue with them. We probably are 99+% compliant on that, but yes, it's not 100%. We continue to monitor routes for ridership, watching for overcrowding on routes, doing our best we can to distribute those routes or put extra resources in place if we can. And then on access, we have just started last week testing the Access web portal for being able to make reservations and to be able to track trips, cancel trips, see where your vehicle is. We're in our live beta testing with some volunteers from STAC and ASAC that are assisting us with that. So we're going to be doing that for the next month or two, getting feedback from those individuals, making sure everything's going well. And as long as it is, we'll be ready to roll it out live to all of our Access riders. And I think that's about everything I can think of off the top of my head. Vassie, please feel free to chime in with anything I missed.
I think you covered on everything. And I think another big thing is that we had a very successful free ride day last week. We were able to help a lot of people, but I think you touched on everything.
Yeah, the coordination of Free Ride Day with Election Day was a very successful event, and we were very happy to be able to do our part to help people to have their voice in the recent election.
Okay, thank you, Jay and Vassie. Did anyone have any comments for MTS before we go to NCTD?
I believe Charlene has a raised hand.
I do. My question is, with the vehicles having circulating air with their air conditioning, what kind of a risk is there for, spread of any germs because of the circulating air conditioning air? Because I ended up asking to have windows open just because I didn't want that recirculating air in case there was something in it. How safe is that air?
The best answer I can give you is that there is nothing that is 100% safe out there. As Arun has elicited to earlier, there have been studies and tracking done by APTA and other agencies, and there has not been a single reported case of an outbreak occurring on public transit anywhere. I know in the nation, and I'm not sure outside of that, but at least in the US, there's not been a single confirmed case. So between face masks, social distancing, and all the other measures, the additional cleaning and stuff, I think we've created about the safest environment we can, given the situation. Window opening is encouraged when the weather permits, but it is not required on the buses.
Thank you.
All right, great. Does anybody else have any comments for MTS, or should we go ahead and move on to NCTD? I don't see any more hands raised. Charles?
Yes, hi, Charles Main with NCTD. On October 4th, we had a minor service change, and this involved primarily scheduling tweaks to improve connections with other routes, as well as improving running times. And then for the upcoming service change in April of 2021, we have a proposed major service change. This will involve the discontinuation of flex routes 392 and 395, which primarily serve Camp Pendleton, and then flex 372, which is the midday on-demand service for Flex 371, but Flex 371 is proposed to remain going forward. We are proposing to eliminate these routes due to low customer demand, high cost per passenger, and some alternative transportation options, such as the midday service to Ramona, Flex 372. For those occasional trips, there are TNCs available, such as Uber or Lyft, that can provide that emergency service for the few people that have been riding 372. We do have public engagement events. Obviously, during COVID, we have to make some adjustments, but we will be at our transit centers next week, Thursday, November 17th through the 19th, Oceanside Transit Center, San Luis Rey, and Escondido. All of that information is available on our website. It's down on the bottom left corner of the main page, so gonctd.com, and there's a banner, like a scrolling banner with different announcements, and you'll see the Flex proposed changes with all of the information on the public engagement sessions. And since we won't be able to be inside for a traditional public meeting, we do have 2 virtual open houses as well, one on December 2nd and December 5th. And all of that information to RSVP and the times are on the website as well, or you can reach out to me with details on that. I will provide a couple ways to communicate with us on the proposed changes. We do have an email address specifically for these changes. It's servicechanges@nctd.org. Again, all one word, servicechanges@nctd.org. And then we do have a special phone number where you can leave a message, and that is 760-435-7274. Again, 760-435-7274. Or you can call our traditional customer service line for them to help you out with information as well. So that is, in a nutshell, the proposed Flex service change. We will have a presentation to the board in January with our final recommendations based on public feedback. We also want to let you know that we are working with our partners. So there's a representative on Camp Pendleton that we're engaging with to identify potential alternatives. I don't have anything to report as of yet, but that will be part of our presentation to the board in January to identify and potentially develop, partnerships or alternatives to that discontinued service. Moving on from the proposed changes, just to echo what MTS mentioned about the methods that we're taking to ensure safety. Again, on our website, we have a lot of information that we can point to. So gonctd.com/coronavirus. We list out everything there, and I'll just touch on a few things. For cleaning and sanitization, we have our vehicles cleaned every night and then sanitized daily, as well as during the day. Buses are cleaned during layovers at Oceanside Transit Center, Vista Transit Center, and Escondido Transit Center. We do also have a mandatory mask requirement for operators and passengers, similar to MTS, and I would say that our rate of compliance is about the same, close to 100%, but we have those occasional instances where, someone's talking on their phone, they pull their mask down, and for the most part, drivers remind them to put the mask back on. But all in all, customers are complying with those mandates. We do have rear door boarding to avoid contact with the driver. We are in the process of installing driver barriers to then eventually go back to front door boarding. And I believe that is it. We've maintained near normal levels of service for Breeze, and that is to maintain social distancing. I'm not aware of crowding that's occurred on our Breeze buses because ridership has been down, system-wide about 60% as of September. Coaster does maintain its reduced levels of service throughout the week. We're at about 55% of our normal trips, and then no weekend service. And we're going to continue with that limited Coaster service for the time being, during the pandemic. Robert isn't here to give a paratransit update, so I can take any questions and pass those on to him and get back with the group. But that's all that I have for NCTD.
Thank you, Charles. Ethel has a comment or question.
Okay, now it says I'm now muted. Okay, all right, I had a couple of questions. My recertification is up later at the end of this month when I reached out to ADA Ride to see what, what some of the changes were due to COVID. They informed me that NCTD no longer they don't have the contract with NCTD. So you're no longer using ADA Ride to recertify. I was rerouted back to I was rerouted back to customer service, and eventually I was routed to someone who said just go on the website and hit reapply. And unfortunately, I was not able to do that. It is not screen reader accessible. I spent over an hour starting over, and I'm pretty able to jump all over everything if the websites are accessible. So that's a concern. So can you explain to me what now somebody does?
Thanks, Ethel. And I'm sorry for the runaround that you had trying to figure this process out. I will need to get with Robert Gibo on that because I'm more on the bus side of things. So I apologize about your situation, but I'll get with Robert and have him contact you because he has your contact information.
Yeah, I wasn't able to also attend the ADA review meeting. I received the invitation, and I was ready 10 minutes before, but the invitation, when I went down and I was ready to hear that HTTP, that's when I hit enter. Again, it's all audio, it's all keyboard. I found JAWS started reading me columns, rows and columns. And as I'm trying to hit the right arrow and down arrow, I finally hit where it said the link. Somewhere in there, I pressed enter on it. It never let me in. So all of this incredible, again, whether it was because it was in a grid that maybe JAWS is not, it doesn't typically read pictures, and again, accessibility. So I wasn't able to actually reach him, the venue where it does. So it's been really frustrating, really, yeah. Okay, so we the accessibility part really needs to be stepped up, reached out. As far as, and I'm having a lot of the blind community also reach out to me. And again, I'm having a hard time answering in terms of the paratransit. Is there still a question of they're still not taking cash, but yes, taking tickets? And that's the question they're asking me, which they should be able to ask like Robert or, or NCTD. They're like, why won't they take my money? But so now I have to go find a way to buy a ticket. And I'm like, I don't know, honey. I don't know. And they're like, so I've never used tickets before. How do you buy tickets? And I'm like, I'm sorry, honey. Wow. So they're like, why on a paratransit will they not take my $5 bill, but they will take a ticket if I find a way to, I'm like, I don't know, honey. I know it doesn't seem to make sense. So do you have an answer for that? Why will the drivers accept a ticket, but not a $5 bill?
Right. So I know on the Breeze bus side that we aren't even having that interaction with the driver. On the
Exactly.
paratransit side, I
Yep.
don't have that answer
Yeah,
for you,
and
and I'm
that's
sorry.
that's a problem, because if you're accepting a ticket or asking them to go, and if they do go find or have a family member, hey, can you help me
Yeah.
purchase this? That's not ADA compliant, because they're under the
Okay.
impression, yeah, because a bus driver isn't, so if there's a change there, that isn't comparable. So again, more communication with your ADA community that are using paratransit,
Yeah.
being able to reach them, get that information, because you got some different things going on there, and some people are falling for it, and they're finding ways to, I gotta get my hands on a ticket. They won't take my bike. Yeah, all of these different, and it's like, wow,
Right.
okay.
Okay, so the 3 items that I'll address with Robert are, number 1, addressing the recertification for ADA.
In
Why
terms
is the
of if
website
it,
not working?
not
Number
accessible.
2, addressing the ticket issue on paratransit. What is the official policy, and why are tickets accepted versus cash? And then the 3rd would be the technical issues that you had with our ADA review group meeting, and making sure that we have that accessible, and
It
that
just needs to be very simple link, just a simple invitation, like always, just here it is, HTTP,
okay.
press on this link, nothing crazy, nothing tech, because the screen readers will go haywire.
Okay.
Yeah, it just needs to, those little kinks
Yeah.
mean locked door for us. So that communication really needs to be kept open. So yeah, that would be great. I do, the reservationist did say that the new website, NCTD website, just got launched, and I'm like, wow, but it's not accessible. Were there
Okay.
any screen readers invited to come in and I know it's not in person, but that really is the way to do things. I've participated on a lot of them, and a lot of the IT people have to be in the room. That's when it happens. They have us, I've done this a lot where we come in, I have a laptop for that reason. I can come in and with the IT, and they say, go on our website and let us watch how you do it. My screen is on, even though I can't see it, the screen can be on. And go find this, go do this thing. And they watch me do it. And then when it's, doing, nope. And they're like, okay, wow, we get it now. All right, that's how it's done. Not sitting in a meeting, listening to a presentation, getting a comment, and then off they go and do something else. It's actually hands-on, kind of like the tactile, hands-on. So, and love to have this conversation with Robert if we could ever do that, so we can move forward together.
Thank you, Ethel. I appreciate your feedback. I'm going to type this up, get this over to him today, and we'll address these issues and get back with you, hopefully within the next couple days.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Ethel.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anyone else that has questions for NCTD?
I don't see any hands raised. Thank you, everyone, for the comment. Charles.
Sure thing.
All right, great. We'll go ahead and go to the fact update, item 8. So I'll go ahead and turn on my video just so everybody can see me. Hello, everyone. So we are experiencing our ridership levels going back to our pre-COVID volumes. So we've been busy with that, and we're also still trying to add new brokerage vendors to the brokerage. There's still an issue with the number of drivers available with our current vendors, and then also with the amount of lift trips that are available, as well as the time that it takes for the Lyft drivers to respond to trip requests. So we are working on those issues. I wanted to let everyone know that the CAM meetings are now every month on the second Tuesday of the month at 1:30. And so tomorrow is our next CAM meeting. If anyone wants to be added to that list, please let me know. And then our annual meeting this year will be virtual, and it will be on December 15th. And if you would like to receive the invitation for that, please let me know as well, and we'd love to have you join. I don't have any other updates unless Arun wanted to add anything. Doesn't look like it. So does anybody have any questions or comments for me? Okay, I don't see any.
Hi, Megan, this is Catherine.
Hi, Catherine.
Yeah, hi there. Just a quick, could you confirm the next CAM meeting?
It is tomorrow.
It is tomorrow. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, and I think then we can go ahead and talk about number 9, which is the upcoming meetings. So will that be January 19th?
Sorry, yes, this is Lisa. Yes, it will be Tuesday, January 19th at the same time, 10 a.m.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lisa. And unless anybody has any other comments, we can go ahead and adjourn. And I hope everyone has a great end of 2020 and that next year is a lot safer and healthier for everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.